Hello friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a petty but very satisfying revenge. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Feel like pushing in the airport queue? Not today, madam. I was recently returning home to the UK from a holiday in Europe with my family. We'd been up early to get to the airport and I was feeling rather cranky. The airport was already packed by 8 a.m., clearly understaffed, and the queue to check in snaked back and forth almost to the front door. An announcement was made that a flight to another UK destination was ready to leave, and all remaining passengers for this flight should proceed to the front of the queue. During my bored people watching, I had already spotted a particularly obnoxious-looking middle-aged couple a row or two back, looking disgusted at the thought of having to wait and be herded like cattle towards the check-in desk. They were a perfect caricature, like a newspaper cartoon, overweight and expensively dressed, sporting an impressive comb-over and heavy-looking gold jewelry. A member of staff called all remaining passengers for the waiting airplane and opened a section of stretchy barrier to let them shuffle and apologize their way to the front of the queue. I clocked snobby couple, exchange a look, and slipped through to stand in the new priority line, even though I'd heard them loudly discussing their travel arrangements and knew they were going to a different destination. Seeing as they deliberately pushed in front of everyone, including me and my family, I semi-politely pointed out to the trout-faced woman that she was in fact in the new priority queue specifically for passengers of a now-delayed flight, and that everyone they'd pushed past had been waiting up to an hour longer than them. She couldn't have been less bothered and just shrugged self-righteously with her nose in the air as if to say, "Well, I'm here now." One thing I can't stand is people pushing in queues, particularly fellow Brits who are essentially going against a deep cultural tradition by disregarding queue etiquette. Unforgivable. So I'm standing there, jaded and hangry, bristling with indignation, when I spot the same airport worker who opened the barrier still milling around to supervise the restless queue. A revengeful plan materializes, and I sidle over to her, adopt a tone of quiet concern, and mention that I saw a suspicious-looking character hovering near Troutface and husband's bags. Not wishing to cause a dramatic security alert and further problems or delays, I kept my suspicions casual and hoped that the member of staff would keep it hush and just take the couple aside. It was with profound glee that I strolled back to my family in the queue and watched the indignant couple being escorted out of the priority line and into a small adjoining room. Fast forward 20-ish minutes, we've checked our bags in and are just passing through to security when I see the couple emerge from the room looking ruffled and then instantly outraged when they're informed they have to rejoin the back of the main queue as their flight wasn't for a few hours. Much red-faced gesticulating and huffing ensued from Troutface and Comb-Over as I cackled and half-skipped through the doors. I saw the couple over an hour later emerging into the departures lounge looking much less smug than before. Although that may have been my imagination. Well done, old chap. Flying the flag for manners, decency, and taking joy in other people's misery. And our second story. Repairs cost too much on a free estimate. For context, I work in an auto repair shop in the U.S. The shop at which I currently work is very busy with a 4.8-star rating on Google, and we average $600 to $750K per month in sales pre-pandemic. Like most businesses at the height of the pandemic, we lost work and staff, and we had to implement protocols for the safety of our staff. This story starts around November 2020. At the time, we provided customers with free estimates on any repairs they might want done. Most body shops do. One of the protocols we'd implemented for the pandemic was that customers weren't allowed to sit inside the shop. If they needed to use the restroom, we still had to check their temperatures, and they were required to wear face masks. Otherwise, they had to call the front office to drop off a vehicle for repairs or to get an estimate. We had 3 estimators, including myself at the time, and our receptionist would notify us when a customer called for us. When this woman, let's call her Karen, called in and said she was outside for an estimate, I came out to meet her and found that she was already upset. "I'm here for an estimate. How long is it going to take?" I told her it would take about 15 minutes, including the photos I'd need to take of her vehicle, 4 corners, VIN, damage, mileage. "That's too long. Why can't I sit inside and wait?" I explained that we cannot allow customers inside to just sit because we're still practicing social distancing. "Well, I have other things to do. Can't you just write my estimate and email it to me, please?" I told her that I don't mind doing that for her, got her contact info, and even gave her a business card I kept in my pocket. Karen had a 2020 Jeep Cherokee that was damaged on the left front side. She said she hit the garage backing out. She firmly stated that she was not going to get repairs done through her insurance. I confirmed her email address, she left, and before I left work that day, I emailed her a copy of the estimate. Replace the front bumper, replace the headlight and mirror, and repair the front door and fender. All told, I estimated about $3,600 for repairs. A couple of days later, the receptionist came to my office and said she had a very upset customer who wanted to speak with me. I thought it was odd that she didn't directly call to our GM or the assistant, but of course I took the call. It was Karen. I was looking over this estimate for my Jeep, and your repair cost is way too high. I reviewed the estimate with her on the phone. Parts alone were about $1,000 altogether, and the rest was paint and body labor. This is an outright lie. I went to another shop and they quoted me $1,400, and they can get the parts for $400. You're clearly price gouging. I told her that I doubted that quote on the parts was accurate and told her that her estimate would show I wrote for OEM parts straight from the local dealership. Karen obviously didn't care. Long story short, we went back and forth for 40 minutes about the other shop's quote. Karen said several times, I know your shop is highly recommended online, and I would rather use your shop, but I could get it done cheaper elsewhere. Even though our shop was doing worse than it was before the pandemic, around $300 to $400K per month, I let Karen know that she had the right to choose that other shop and that I would not be able to bend on our prices. That should have been it. But no, not Karen. Maybe Karen was feeling extra jolly, but a few more days later, she came to the shop and started knocking on the locked shop door. Since we'd started locking the main door, our receptionist had felt with a number of people who knocked on the door, and her response was the same every time. Receptionist walked up to the door, calmly unlocked it from the inside, and used her body to keep the door only ajar. After talking to Karen, receptionist came to get me to address Karen. I walked out to Karen's still damaged Jeep. I know you said you won't budge on the price of that estimate, but I need my Jeep fixed ASAP. The other shops I've talked to can't get me in until January, and this is a brand new Jeep looking like this. I need it fixed ASAP, and I can pay $1,400. How soon can y'all take it? I told Karen that it would cost at least $3,600 and that we'd be able to take in her Jeep as soon as the parts arrived at our shop so her repairs wouldn't take long. Y'all don't have the parts already here? I told her no. So how long does that take? I'm going out of town for Christmas and New Year's, and I want my car to look brand new again. I told her that we'd have to paint the bumper, fender, and door, and that it'd take 3 days. 3 days? No, that's unreasonable. First you want to charge me more than double what the other guys would, then you don't have the parts, and now you're keeping my brand new car for 3 days? Are you the manager? I told her no, but I could go get him for her. My GM has more years of experience in body shops than I've been alive. He's dealt with all types of customers and situations, so when I told him about Karen's situation, he calmly asked for a copy of the estimate, put on his face mask and gloves, and went outside to meet her. They talked very quietly for almost an hour. When Karen left, she was clearly furious from the way she slammed her damaged door and peeled out of our parking lot. GM told me before I clocked out that day that he confirmed everything I had told Karen already and that he wouldn't discount the repair cost even if she was his own wife. When he told Karen that it would be 3 days of repair time, Karen had demanded a loaner vehicle. GM told her that we don't provide loaners, and she'd have to pay for that out of pocket as well. GM said that he told Karen if she didn't want to pay the cost or go through her insurance, there would be nothing further we could do. After that incident, GM instituted a new policy of charging an estimate writing fee. It's around the going hourly labor rate for our state and serves as a deterrent for future Karens. It's also a great way for customers to pay a deposit for repairs up front. Thankfully, Karen didn't leave us a negative review online anywhere about her experience. You know, if you'd done the repairs, Karen would have endlessly complained about the price, the quality of the work, how long it took, and blah, blah, blah. And our last story. Damn neighbor. So, for a bit of context, my mom and dad own a plant nursery. From what I was told, our annoying neighbor was a retired lawyer with too much time on his hands. He lived just down the hill from us and owned a dam as well. So, let's get into this. It's long. So this happened back a few years ago when I was in year 11 of my high school, about mid-autumn. Keep in mind this is Australia, so it's bloody dry. We get a formal complaint from our annoying neighbor, which isn't a big shock because at this stage we were getting formal complaints from him every 2 weeks or so. Anything from too much noise to too little noise, our dog, our hill eroding, anything this guy could think of. It came in his usual lawyer-styled letters. Anyway, this guy had written us a letter claiming we had infected his water with blue-green algae, and we would have to pay all damages to his property, including vet bills for his horses. Now, my mom and dad were furious with this guy, for when we were having our dam built, the guy kept complaining about how the runoff from our pots would change the nutrient level of his water, so my dad built this and went all out. He had a natural filtration system with 2 smaller dams that all the water would go through first. Filled with natural water-filtered plants, reeds, and other plants, it would then go through a chlorinator and finally a pumped filter. Every month, my dad would backwash mains into the dam to keep the dam the right pH and pump the water constantly to keep it aerated. So my parents replied a flat no. So our neighbor makes his biggest mistake and calls Melbourne Water to look at our dam and to test the water. And guess who had to pay for the water testing fee? So Melbourne Water guy gets there and gets mad. His coworker had called in sick and he was going to have to collect water samples from all water inflows and overflows and the dam itself by himself and do salinity tests, pH tests, and send samples back to the lab for further testing. I thought it was interesting, for I was doing chemistry at the time, so I went out to talk to him about it. He looks at our setup and, to say the least, was pretty impressed. He asked why it was getting reviewed, and I say, well, due to how dry it is and how water isn't overflowing from our dam to his, and 2, why it's the neighbor getting reviewed due to his is the one with blue-green algae. He soon gets explained all the crap our neighbor gives us and expresses his sympathy. When he's about to finish up, he suddenly asks about the fence line that goes through the annoying neighbor's dam, and I tell him about how a few years back the neighbor had told us to reinstall our connecting fence in order to keep our dog in, and how Dad had to pay for it all. Dad was pissed and decided to review over our property border and didn't give up a centimeter of land to this guy, even if it went through to his dam. Now, Melbourne Water guy smiles and says, well, I'll have to get a sample of that as well, won't I, since it's your water. After he talks to my parents about our options, he then says that the review will be scheduled soon about the water contamination. By the way, I was not present for the meeting. Mom and Dad relayed the whole thing to me. Anyway, going on. About a month later, the council has us sit down for a meeting with the annoying neighbor there, and all he knew was it was about the contamination of water, and he's looking very smug. Then it starts. Melbourne Water guy goes on to state that the contamination did not come from our dam and likely came from annoying neighbor's horse poo running into his dam. But without further testing on annoying neighbor's property, there would be no conclusive evidence. Annoying neighbor just looks confused because why have a council meeting for this? But Melbourne Water guy isn't done yet. He then goes on to state that there has in fact been contamination to our water from his, as we have a cubic meter of water coming across from his dam. I heard he went pale as he realized what this meant for him. He would have to pay us for damages. He quickly got composure and claimed, well, they don't use that cubic meter of water and therefore have no damage. Then it was my mom's turn. She got up and told the council that she wanted to use this water for water exhibit for our plants range when her customers come over to look at our plants. But she couldn't do so with the water contaminated. The council had already seen the plans and agreed. So the annoying neighbor was then forced to pay for Melbourne Water to come out and determine where the contamination was, then set up a filtration system similar to ours, which cost my dad about $20,000 to decontaminate the water so we could water our garden. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.